I think I had more conversations with people from Canada about what is Vegemite and how to eat Vegemite because they don't know. I was like they're
Wow.
like, oh, it's like peanut butter, right? It's like it's
Oh
absolutely
no.
not like
It's
peanut
like you
butter.
see on like Stephen Colbert or something, they try and like eat a spoonful of it. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's like
what are you
no.
doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They like
I
slather it on
Yeah.
bread without butter and
Oh yeah,
stuff.
and that
You're
was a big
like,
thing. I was like, you gotta have butter,
And the
guys.
ratio is
Oh,
important.
exactly.
I
So
ah,
yeah,
absolutely know people who eat Vegemite out of the jar with a spoon,
yeah.
but I do think that is an
that's
advanced
us.
level of
That's
Oh,
Australian.
different.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I
yes,
mean,
yeah,
we can
I
do
can do
that.
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Amy Ann. I'm Amy Matthews, and I'm here today with Millie Heffernan
That's me.
and Justina Ashman.
Hi.
And we're on beautiful Ghana land today. It's the middle of winter, but it's a sunny, lovely day. And we would like to pay our respects to Ghana elders past and present and to extend those respects to any First Nations people listening to us today. And today we're continuing Zine Month. And we're really, really lucky to be talking to someone who is like beloved in Adelaide and has been a practicing artist, workshop runner, writer, has worked at Greenlight Comics and is kind of known all throughout Adelaide. And that's Georgina Chadderton, who also writes as George Rex and George Rex Comics. Most people, I think, in the zine and comic book scene in Adelaide have heard of Gina because they also run Paper Cuts Festival. I always get this wrong, so I'm going to read it. Xena Warrior Print Fest, which I always want to say Xena Warrior Festival. And also ran Comics with Friends and Strangers, is the author of Oh Brother, which came out this year in February, and is just an all-round amazing human being, like one of the warmest, friendliest, loveliest people I have ever met. So we're really excited to talk to Gina today, and without further ado, we'll welcome Gina. All right, well, I'm just going to dive in and say welcome, Gina. It's so lovely to have you here. I have
Thank
such a warm soft spot for you because I spent years sitting in a room while my youngest kid went to your Inky Fingers workshops. And so I got to watch you work for years. And that community, that room, is that Greenlight Comics? Just that room full of kids was just so inspiring. Like you watch, it's kind of what we're talking about this month, zines of just seeing these tables of kids making stuff every week and so kind of open and into it and energetic. So I have loved you ever since.
Aw, thank you. That's so lovely. I'm like, oh, I don't know how to respond. So many nice things right off the bat.
But you are like so impressive and busy. And what I love is that you've kind of never lost. You may end up being one of the most successful writers and comic artists I know eventually, because I feel like your level of productivity, originality, and everything is amazing. And you're conquering the world at the moment with Oh Brother, but you still are so engaged with like the local scene and zines, and you still work at Greenlight, do you?
I don't work at
Not
Greenlight
anymore.
anymore, but my partner, who is also a community, like comics community person, took over my job at Greenlight,
So
which
you're
is
still
like
connected.
doing the local zine stuff. And I go in pretty much every week. I'm like, "Ooh, what's in now?" And I'm always telling all of the kids that when I'm running workshops, like, oh, you've made a comic, great, go to Greenlight Comics. They'll put it on the shelf, and if not, I know who I know who to
I know
what
who to
buttons to
talk
press. Yeah,
to.
If not, you come to me.
yeah.
So I guess the first question is how you got into everything. Like when did you decide that this is what you wanted to do? How did you first get
Hmm.
access to the communities?
Yeah, I guess like I think anyone that does anything as an adult that requires uh no no payment and like like it's not a job, like it's something you
Yeah.
do for the love of it. You've always done it, like it's something you've done as a young person usually. So I've always been drawing and writing stories, and for me, being mildly dyslexic, I think pictures were just a natural way to help me write the stories I wanted to tell. And I love words but sometimes struggle with them, so definitely pictures helped like get expressions and emotions across that I wasn't, maybe didn't have the right words for. And also like late diagnosed autistic as well, so like I think in hindsight a lot of those things were like, oh cool, this is me processing the world in the way that makes sense. So it's kind of just like, it feels like if I couldn't tell stories right and make in the comics format, like I don't know what, I just can't imagine not doing that. Like it's just something I've always done and been very excited about, because it feels like it's a way for me to connect with the world and other people. But as so it's just something I've always done. But I actually did like classical music performance at uni. I was going to be a music teacher. That
Oh
was
my God,
like,
Gina, because another memory I have of you was the Emerging Writers Festival where you did a
oh yeah,
performance where you did like you danced and performed while
yeah,
you were
yeah,
reading. And
I did.
I never forgot that. That may have been the first time I ever met you, I
Oh,
think.
really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I can't believe that was a long time ago. It was to Life's a Happy Song from the Muppets, if anyone is
Oh,
curious. It's a great song. It's a banger. Yeah, so the theme of that was like a live reading, and then the comics were projected behind while I was reading it, and it was like a mixtape memoirs was the theme of the evening. So it's like I pick a song that was very important to you, and that one was about how important that song was to me because it's the song my mum and I would sing in the car together whenever we're like she would drive me around to various like places and things and activities I was doing. So we would sing it together. So it's like a love letter to my mum and how supportive she is and helping me continue to be a human being in the world.
So you've been
that's
kind
so
of like
cool.
doing
I
classical
love
music.
art.
Yeah.
I know that's what I was about to say. Like, it's such a kind of great, pure artistic process to be like, I like the things, I like making things. So you
Yeah.
came from classical music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
technically. So yeah, I went to Brighton High School, which has a special music program, but only because it was my local high school. But because of that, I sort of fell into percussion, which was the instrument I played, and marimba specifically, which is like a big xylophone for anyone who's not au fait with the percussive instruments. So that's like you can have four mallets, two in each hand, and so that's very much where I'm an anxious, very anxious introvert. However, I have got this sort of performance element, like you kind of switch it on. And I guess, again, possibly a little bit of practicing masking for all of my life. It's that thing where you can switch it on. But yeah, so that I think those kind of art things were really important. And in fact, my drum teacher at high school is the one that got me into comics, sort of like in the second part. So in primary school, had access to Tintin and Asterix and Calvin and Hobbes. That was pretty much it. But then in high school, my drum teacher like started lending me like his single issue collection, all in their plastic bags, and I was like, I was getting very nervous. I was going to do something wrong, and unmint condition them. But like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, which is Jhonen Vasquez who did Invader Zim. That was his sort of early comics, and then Too Much Coffee Man and Milk and Cheese, which are all these sort of like alt indie sort of 90s comics that he had grown up with and like lent to me to like then get inspired. And then I made comics of the music teachers, and because I was really cool, I had lots of cool friends. And I still have those. I did like 40 of them, and it was like them going on various adventures and like falling in love with each other. Like these are real people that I showed to the teachers. I I don't know how I got through school without being less I wasn't bullied that much, fortunately, so I don't know how.
I would have loved that as a teacher. That would have just been, I would be like, oh, this kid's amazing. I love this.
So yeah, so that sort of music, even though music's obviously seems
Yeah.
quite different from what you would think of as storytelling and comics and zines and making, it was really being part of the music center was really inspiring for me to be able to keep processing the world that way through music and comics at the same time, and they're sort of interchangeable for sure.
They're both quite kinetic too, aren't they? Like I always think of drawing as quite a kinetic thing, but writing often feels very stuck in your head.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like I watch my youngest work and even when we make zines, it feels much more embodied as a practice.
Oh, definitely. Like I think and there's like I've now my next era is the craft era, which my mum's always been a crafter, but because of that I've been like drawing up the plans for her. It's like, Mum, please make all of these things for me. And now I'm like, no, I need to actually learn these skills as well. So I've like started doing applique, like trying to adjust clothes, cropping clothes, which has been a nice but again, it's that same, like you said, it's kinetic. It's using your hands and like puzzle solving as well. I think a lot of this is puzzle solving, which I think is similar with the writing. Like you have this thing, but how can you fit it together to make it the best thing that it can be?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of zine making, I don't know, to me, zine making is something that does bring in together all these different disciplines of creativity and like tries to break down some of the, I guess, artificial barriers between like how we communicate and tell stories and share ideas. So I was wondering if you remember the first like zine you ever made, or the first time you ever heard about zines.
Well, the first zine I ever made is technically, I've got it right here, but it's when I was a kid. Hang on. It's called Booklet.
Oh,
I still have it, and it's for the audio listeners, it's a tiny sort of like 5 by 5 centimeter made out of old, I think my mum and dad's old like wedding invitation bits and pieces, like crafty bits. Again, my mum would always like has all of the things that we had. And there's an illustration of a butterfly with the word butterfly and an apple and then a ball. These are all illustrated. Banana, cabbage, a bit of an interesting one for a child. Carrot, pear, tree. Okay, we're getting some good stuff there. Orange, and then trampoline. That to me is like the twist. And this was written and illustrated by Georgina Chadderton in 1997. So I would have been 6 for that one. So that's my first zine.
This is so stupid, but this is actually blowing my mind because I realized I always made zines.
Yeah.
As I'm watching it, I'm thinking I've actually got a box of these things I've made as a kid where I thought I was making books.
Yeah.
But actually I was always a zine maker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's cooler than being a bookmaker.
Yeah.
But I think that like that's obviously I also didn't know that was a zine at the time, but like I found this in the box of things at my parents' house and I was like, I think that's the first zine that we still have. But I think actively I started making zines in late high school, which is when I was vaguely starting to become aware of them. There was a zine fair at the time, like Format zine shop and zine fair.
Yeah, I remember Format.
So that was sort of starting to happen, and I was kind of vaguely aware of it, and that sort of that transition from late high school to university, whereas I was studying music, but like when I had spare time, I would be drawing and making zines and things like that. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, my next question then is, I mean, I know that you were a co-director of Xena. I want to get the name right. It was Xena Warrior Print Fest because I always want to say Xena Warrior Festival.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's such a good name.
So how did that come about?
So yeah, when we first started it was myself, Rebecca Sheedy, Jake Holmes, Simon Gray, and Eleanor, I can't remember Eleanor's last name, who was at Format at the time. So this is when Format had a physical shop, and it was sort of the end of their sort of era, I guess. And so that was our first one was at the Format space.
I reckon that was the year I first had a job at a university because I think I got my first contract and because Format had just set up.
Yep.
And I remember I set zines as the final assignment. They all made group zines and they had to at some point in the semester go into Format and have a look.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it'd be about then. So Format was around.
Yeah. So I can't exactly remember, like 2014, 2015, that sort of vibe.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of, it was a biggish group then, and it was really just like, let's do a thing. We've been to zine fairs, like some of the Format people, like the original Format people had moved on to, because like Ianto Ware, who I think also helped start Renew Adelaide, if I remember correctly, also went on to do things and other stuff. So he was one of the Format people, and then an author as well. He's an author. So like it was sort of, where am I going with this story? So this is my hands trying to figure out, like, what was I saying?
How does something come to be?
Yeah, it's kind of just like, we've been to things. There's nothing really happening in Adelaide at the moment. Should we make it happen? And I think that's most of my attitudes towards if I've tried to help run something. It's like, oh, this looks cool. This other thing's doing over here. I like that. Let's do it here, because Adelaide, there's not something happening at the moment of that particular type.
Yeah. I think that attitude is like also the exact thing that makes zine making and like the zine community so like fun and exciting, is that as soon as you realize that like the idea of like a gatekeeper around these things is something that you just don't have to pay that much attention to. It's like, oh, there's nobody running this event. That's okay. You can just run it. Or like, there's nobody who's making this very specific niche of like book that I want to make. It's like, oh, you could just make that.
Yeah.
There's that DIY, like, I don't know. I think of it as like just audacity, the sheer audacity to just go out and make the thing that you want exist in the world.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think I'm very lucky that both of my parents, who are very different, but both of them have a very DIY attitude to things, or like problem solving thing. So like my mum, very craft and textile focused, but we're just like, my brother needs a specific outfit to help him. So like my brother's autistic, but also has an intellectual disability. So he would often have trouble with different types of clothes for texture and feeling and things like that. So she's like, okay, how can we make clothes that are comfortable for him that we can't get in the shop? So she would make them, sort of thing, like that kind of situation. So she's always figuring out that kind of stuff. And then my dad on the other side is like, again, examples of my brother, but like it extends further as well. Like Rob is very strong, and so will often accidentally, with just excitement, bend iPads when he's watching them because he's like, oh, I'm really enjoying the show. So Dad made like a wooden frame so he couldn't, because like even the like really heavy duty covers weren't really cutting it, so Dad had to like groove out a wooden thing and like figure out way that you could have it so Rob couldn't take it apart, but it could be taken apart with tools to replace and do things and make sure that you could charge.
Love You're from a family of puzzle solvers.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what I love about that is making the world fit the person rather than the other way around. Because one thing I notice about zines and fan fiction is it's often trying to fill vacuums that exist, right? Like when we talk about gatekeepers also kind of, keep the gates for the middle of the population. And so what you see often is stuff that will appeal broadly but misses out all these niches. And so when you pick up zines, you're like, oh, there are all these things I've never seen before in a book. Or fan fiction does that too in ways that I think is quite beautiful.
And I think zines are really good at, like, I think Justine has touched on this briefly, which was like format, like how you can like really experiment with things. You don't have to just have it, because like having worked now with a bigger publisher, there's a lot of things that you kind of get told of what is marketable, basically. And they're a big business. Like I understand where they're coming from, but it can be very frustrating when you've come from a zine background, particularly, where it's like, yeah, but can't I just do this wacky thing? It just seems fun. I think other people would like it. But then, there's things like, I love a flat book, but I know how expensive they are to produce. But if I'm hand making flat books, sure, it's probably even more expensive to produce, but I'm having a great time, and then I can have it at the zine fair. Things like that. So like you can really experiment with lots of different formats, which I think is really exciting about zines.
I've definitely had that conversation with friends as they like get into zines, where they'll say, oh, but isn't this too niche? Like, will anyone even want to buy this? And I was like, there is no such thing as too niche of a zine.
That's right. We only have to look through your collection, Justina. Like some of them I'm like, you know what? I would not pick this up, except that I am going to pick this up and read it now, because here it is in this tiny little zine format.
Totally.
Really, I keep trying to say that, like to explain that to people. Like you can just, and that's maybe the problem also with zine making, is you can just make a zine about anything in any form, and then it's like, well, that's too much choice. I need some parameters.
Totally. Yeah. It can be scary the first time when you first get into it, particularly, if you get paralyzed by choice, because there is so many. I would recommend, if you're a beginning zine maker, to do the classic 8-page foldy. It's a good one to start with, because then that's format ready to go. You can open it up and there's a poster inside. There's a little bit of fun. It's a little bit different.
Whoa. That's already a little too. Whoa, hold on. But no, you're so right. Starting with the 8 folders, that was good. That was like, okay, great. I've got one format to start with, and I got to fill 8 little pages. Let's go.
You can do it
easy. And a title page and an ending page. That's already
so it's really only
2
6.
done. So it's really 6. 6
and then you've got your
pages.
inside cover and inside back.
Oh, inside. That's true. Which really leaves you 4.
You're done. And then you, by that time, you're like, actually, I've got heaps more to say. I'll open it up and make the poster. That's fine.
That was the problem with the first one. I was like, oh wait, I'm at the end. Oh no, I didn't.
You just have to make another one. You'll have to make another one. Have a little series.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
What you were saying earlier though does lead me to asking about what that journey was like, going from zines to I guess like a traditional publishing format. Like, was it useful having made things yourself and having an understanding of how things get made, or was it more of that like, oh well, if it was just me making this, I could just do that, or like
so I think I'm kind of in this in between. Yes, I think I personally am glad that I came from making small things and not figuring out how things work, because that's what tickles my brain. Squidgy bits. I don't. That's terrible.
Yep. That's the technical term.
Thank you, thank you. Like I like to know how things are made and like the process behind things. And I know there's certain things that I also can't understand as well. So like I find formatting things, so like the page formats, not as in like what I'm making on the page, but how that fits in with a book. Like if you're going to be doing it for print, like how making sure that the bleeds are there, anything with numbers, basically. The moment there's numbers involved, and my brain's like, no, I just want to make it.
Yeah.
And so if it's not physical and I have to like do some mental math, that's when I struggle. And again, I'm very lucky that my partner Owen, who's a comics maker himself, but day job is like document editor, proofreader. So he covers all of the bases that I can't do, which is spelling and maths. So and so that's very handy to have someone who can kind of break it down and explain it for me, or help me when I struggle with those elements. And it also helped when interacting with the publisher, because I think the publisher doesn't expect you to necessarily know those things. They have designers that can help you with those steps. But I think the fact that I had Owen to actually help me with the setup of the pages to make sure that when it gets to the print run element, that it was ready to go and the designer didn't have to do much editing, and that sort of sped that up a little bit, and gave me like I had a bit more control over that stage. Because it definitely sometimes feels like you have to give over a little bit of, well, quite a lot of control of certain things, like particularly like cover design was a big one for me. And like the covers, I'm happy with the cover, it's fine, but it's not at all what I had originally thought
they
it might
never
be.
How
they
does
never
that work
are they
it's
they never are,
because with a novel cover, obviously somebody is designing that and drawing or whatever, putting something together, but your cover is drawn by you, I would assume. How did that work then?
So I'm sure it's different for everyone. Like that, often what you'll do, I believe, from reading behind the scenes things and stuff, is like basically you'll send some draft covers. You will probably work with the designer who is going to be formatting it to make sure that it fits for print and all that sort of thing. But then for me, that was fine. Like working with my designer was great. She's also a comics maker, like, so she kind of understood where I was coming from, but she also had she knows what the publisher is probably more likely to want, as opposed to what I want, which is the busiest cover in the world. And they're like, we don't want that. I'm like, but I love this.
Thumbnail, Gina, thumbnail that.
I know. I just want all of the things on there. And like I love little Easter eggs. Like I love like showing little, I wanted to have lots of little pictures and images that were in the book, so that were all labeled. So once you had read the book, you're like, oh, I can see all these things that are relating to the story now. I get it. But I'm just sad that, a little bit sad. But then, so working with the designer was great. Like it was back and forth. It was like, it's just, that was interesting. But then she took it to the marketing team and they rejected all of the ideas we had worked on together. And so she had to, like, from the marketing feedback, she sort of thumbnailed out something that might work, or like a couple of options. And I was like, cool, I like this one enough, and I'll just redraw it in my style to fit it. And then again, there was a bit of back and forth about what can and can't be on the cover. So like I have a lot of Vegemite in the book, which was a whole other thing about whether that was going to be able to stay in the US.
Yes, of course.
Stuff.
God.
It did.
They all know what Vegemite is now.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I was. Well, yeah. So I was very much like, yeah, come on, it's like one of the things, right? If you know anything about Australia,
they're all doing Vegemite challenges now.
Yeah,
they know it's fine.
But I've just
they can learn.
They can, exactly. Well, that's more my thing of like, sure, but like maybe they could just Google it. We have the facility these days. But yeah, in Canada recently, I was just very fortunate to be able to go there through an Arts Essay grant, Create Essay, as it is now, grant to go and like do a little book tour. And I think I had more conversations with people from Canada about what is Vegemite and how to eat Vegemite, because they don't know. I was like, they're like, it's like peanut butter, right? It's like, it's
no,
not like
it's like
butter.
You see on like Stephen Colbert or something, they try and like eat a spoonful of it. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. They like slather it on bread without butter and stuff.
Oh yeah, and that was a big thing. I was like, you gotta have butter, guys.
And the ratio is important.
Oh, exactly.
I absolutely know people who eat Vegemite out of the jar with a spoon. But I do think that is an advanced level of Australian.
I mean, we can do
that. Yeah. But that's I've got it in my blood at this point. Like
you need to start at the beginner level.
I started describing it more like a miso paste. So it's like a flavor enhancer. You know, that kind of helped. That was the closest thing. Umami. Got to use the umami.
Umami.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, I want to make a zine about eating Vegemite. That's going to be my next zine, actually.
That'd be amazing.
How to do it. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah. No, now I'm imagining the Vegemite zine. No, I was going to say that's so interesting, just because from like a like the writing I do is very pure text, and I think Millie and Amy will also have this experience.
Very much the
So
same, yes.
having that visual element adds such another layer when you're working, working with other designers and publishers of like, oh, I'd never have to, I don't know. I feel like when you're used to doing a practice that can be really solitary, it's so scary to try and give up any amount of control and navigate that. But then like I've never really had to think too much about, oh, how would the words be laid out on the page? Would that be, what my vision was? Because yeah, that visual element is just adds a whole nother aspect to the process.
Yeah, and like a lot of comics makers, like you often have pairs, like a writer with an illustrator, so they're already working as a team quite early on, and then you can even break it down to more like people that do the just coloring or the lettering. And I did have I keep mentioning Owen. Basically, he's the only reason that this book got done on time. He helped letter the book as well, so it's a font of my handwriting that again he also helped me. Like I made it and then he made it better. So it actually like worked and had all the kerning and things like that properly.
So incredible to have an in-house letters and numbers guy.
It's great, right?
Also to have someone who understands what you do. Like that's such a blessing.
It is, yeah. So having someone who actually cares about comics and like understands the format and the medium and things like that is in, so you can bounce ideas off of like what's not working with this page, and we're able to do that for each of it. Like we both can do it with each other, which is really nice. So he was able to letter the book for me, so I didn't have to work with someone else. But that was an issue with some of the editorial feedback initially, particularly if the team hadn't done comics before. So some of the team had and some of them hadn't. So a lot of the feedback would be like, oh, just add in a panel here. I'm like, that's not how it works. Or just take out a page. It's like, no, I've got a lot of double spreads. So like if you take one out, that will ruin the formatting and the page. Like knowing how that page turns are really important for comics and visual, anything that's visual. So it's interesting like seeing like who kind of gets that element, but then a lot of the feedback from the non-visual people are very good from a story point of view because they know how like story beats work as well, as do comics people, but like they can give you story feedback of like this isn't really hitting quite home in this way and things like that. But yeah, I did notice as the stages went on and the pitches were more easy for them to negotiate, like they could see like, oh yes, I can see what's happening. That really helped them be able to edit it. Whereas early on, they weren't able to really see a script because it's more like a dialogue script basically to start off with. And then thumbnails, which are really loosey-goosey. I just chuck pen on paper just to really like figure out how many panels are going to work. And if I've put too much text in one particular panel and things like that, that's the puzzle solving bit. And then as it goes on, it gets more refined and refined. Yeah.
Have you always done the more long form comics?
No, yeah. So I think we had a delicious conversation about Vegemite, and then I completely didn't answer Justina's question about going from like zines to long form.
I think you've talked about it quite a lot. You've done
yeah.
But I like definitely short stuff was where I started. Lots of like single page autobio little bits that I would then collect. Just like little funny, silly ideas. Then I did start doing the 24-hour comic challenge, which is draw 24 pages of comics in 24 hours. You stay up for 24 hours. It's really hard. Don't do it. It's not good. It's not good for your body. But if you do it with a group of friends, because then they can like encourage you and then you can eat late night pizza together. It's really nice. And through that, I started delving into more longer form autobio and even fiction, like just trying some things out. And I started feeling that was, I was enjoying it. But then, when I started working on this big book, because I felt like I had enough stories and ideas that I wanted to get across. And so my book is about growing up with my brother and what it's like to have a sibling with complex support needs, but also just being like an awkward, sweaty teenager navigating first year high school and friendships and, things.
Yeah.
Normal stuff.
Yeah, normal things. And so like initially it was a very different version of the book when I started, and I was very lucky to have some support from Cartflew, the youth arts organisation, to have mentors on the project. So I had Pat Grant and Mandy Ord when the first year I started working on it, and they're both fantastic published graphic novelists. Mandy has been shortlisted for the Stellar Awards, for example, with her work, and she does a lot of autobio and also works with in the disability field. So she knows a lot of the sort of the topics that I was covering. And then Pat is I like to describe him as an academic. He's got a PhD in comics and loves to go surfing and rock climbing, and is, the most, he's a cool guy. He's like, you're too cool for comics. But he's very lovely and like has a really good brain when it comes to like the academics of comics and how they work and breaking them down. But they both also come from zines and DIY backgrounds, so I think they were really good. They understood like where I was coming from. And Pat was like, his first feedback was like, the first 30 pages of this graphic novel is like you're writing a mini comic, and then you figured out that you actually have like 200 pages, so you can space things out. You're not having to cram all the information in, because that's sort of the biggest difference, is when you have less pages, you have to try and cram as much in as possible. But when you've got a graphic novel, you can spread things out, and you can let that pacing really be a bit more flowy and get into it a bit more, which is really nice. And that's the thing I like about long form, is that you can take that time to have the space to let moments land a lot more, whereas short form, it feels often like, it depends on what story you're telling, I'm sure, but for me, as you can probably tell, once I start talking, I cannot stop. And my comics are like that as well. I'm like, I got to get everything very clear so everyone totally understands what I'm saying and there's no miscommunication.
Was it a different like experience creatively, right, doing a long form comic, especially doing something that is so personal?
Yeah, like initially when I started getting into it, everyone was like, wow, I can't believe you're doing such a personal story. And I'm like, it doesn't sound like, I just talk about this all the time, it's fine. And then like as I went on, I was like, oh, I guess this is pretty personal. And I did have a few, because it took me 10 years in total to get the book done, so it was about 6 years. Like I wasn't just doing this, I was doing other things at the same time, like running workshops and comics festivals and making other mini comics and bits and pieces in between. But like 6 years of sort of on and off trying to figure out how I was going to make this book and maybe kickstart it. And then it got picked up by the publisher for the last 4 years of it. And then that's when I had to sort of rewrite and redraw the whole book that I had gotten at the point that I had got to at that point. And so, yeah, I think there was at various stages throughout the process. Like initially, I think I was treating it like a mini comic, which is like, I can make a dot point list and cover some things and I'll just like write it and see how it goes. And then that's fine. And don't really edit it that much. And then as it went along, I was like, oh no, I need to edit this. Like I need to figure out how I want this to flow, because it is such a long, you want to make sure that the reader's enjoying this process for, the 200 pages, not just, it was more, initially it was like little vignettes that were sort of collected together, non-chronological. And now the book is, once it got picked up by the publisher for a variety of reasons, but mostly like initially it was mostly like marketing reasons, but now I think has turned into a better book for this type of book. Like I still love the original version, but that is a different type of book.
You're writing fiction now, right? The next one is fiction?
I would love to, if I can. So I've got some memoir ideas to do as well, and I've got some fiction ideas. I've got a million ideas.
So you're working on a second one now?
So I've started my next aim is to develop a pitch for a fiction one and a memoir, and try and pitch both and then see if I can do the fiction first.
Right, because my question was going to be what you think you've learned from that long process. Like, do you think it would be quicker, different? Do you think you'd go into it? What did you learn that you would put to work in the next one?
So I think I have learned things, I hope. The main thing I think is I would probably merge the script and thumbnail stage for the editors. Like if I can, like I might not give them the chance to give me feedback at the script stage.
That's a good idea.
Just at the thumbnail stage, because I think a lot of the feedback and early on was fixed in the thumbnails, because that's sort of how I work. And I wouldn't necessarily, I still might do a script stage. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I'll just go straight to like script and thumb sort of simultaneously.
It makes sense though with what you were saying about how moments didn't click for them until they saw it. And it's true for people who might not be as visual thinkers to finally see it on the page and go, oh, I see why it has to be the double spread page now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's one thing from a process thing. I would probably definitely, if I'm lucky enough again to have the same sort of editorial situation, which was multiple countries giving feedback on the book at the same time, I would ask for better communication around that, because I think there was people weren't really sure who was taking the lead, and there was but I might not be in that situation again. It's probably more likely that I'll probably just if I'm lucky enough to have a publisher at all, I would probably just have
I'm
one.
sure you will. I have enormous faith in your career, Gina.
But yeah, it might be more that I'll just have an Australian publisher who then I just work with them, and then they might sell the rights later. Particularly for fiction, I think that's I'm not as because I've maybe proved myself that I can do memoir, but fiction they might not be as keen on. You never know. So there's a few process things that I think I've knuckled out, figured out, smoothed out, ironed. That's the word.
Ironed out. One is a little bit more conflict.
Yeah,
that's true. A bit more aggressive,
or it could be more like your knuckles on the page.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
You mentioned briefly, obviously that you haven't just been doing this for 10 years, and that did remind me that we've asked you about Xena, but we haven't asked you about Paper Cuts, which is another event that you're involved in and that you run that's extremely fun and cool, if I may say so.
Oh, thanks. Well, Paper Cuts, for those who don't know, is a entirely free comics festival here in Adelaide on Gunnerland, and we run it every 2 years. Again, it's me with that miracle partner that I have been constantly talking about, Owen. We went to a festival in England in Leeds called Thought Bubble, which is a fantastic comics festival, in 2018, and we were like, it was like 200 just comics creators, like from completely indie, like self-publishing all the way up to like big Marvel, DC, like quite well known, but all they did was make comics, which is like at the time was unheard of in Australia. Like really, there was a few smaller events that were kind of starting up, but they were more DIY, more zine based, which is also good. Like it wasn't a bad thing. It was either that or it was the sort of big pop culture conventions, which in theory were they called comic conventions, but they didn't have a lot of comics as part of it, and particularly not like independent creators. Like they wouldn't. It wasn't it was mostly more fan art and that kind of thing. So we kind of wanted to have the thing that was in the middle of those two. So it had the DIY community vibes, but with the sort of more, I guess, probably more of a Writers' Week element to it, where it had author talks and live comics readings and an exhibition and like celebrating these kind of elements of comics, and just be like, these are people that are making their own thing, they're writing their own stories, and they're selling them. That's it, kind of thing, and not just doing. And not that there's anything wrong with fan art and fan fiction, but like that's not what we wanted to create a space for, because there were already spaces for those. So again, it's that thing of like, here's a thing that's not quite covered. How can we make it happen?
What's so cool about that too, I think, is that it changes your horizon of expectation when you can go and see people who are actually doing this at every single level of it, right? That it's like, oh, well, I do this thing that I love, and I could be any one of these things if I wanted to be. And I think in Adelaide, when I was young, it was a bit of a wasteland, but over the years, it's sort of really boomed. And I do think we do have a DIY culture here, because we don't have a lot of the big things here.
Totally.
Yeah, because even Writers' Week, we've always had like offshoots of that cater to, people who may not be catered to at Writers' Week. Yeah,
totally. And that was the other thing, is like in Writers' Week, again, like, generally a great festival with some controversies aside. But we liked that it was free, and like anyone could just turn up and listen to people talking about books. That's great. Was kind of what we wanted, breaking down those barriers, whether they're economic barriers or barriers of expectations of a medium. And so that's sort of what we wanted to get across with Paper Cuts. But the thing with Writers' Week is that there was very rarely any comics creators, particularly in the adult section.
Yep.
I remember one year where there was a comics program at Writers'
There was.
Week that I loved. I remember going to the whole comics day.
Yeah.
And being sad not to see it reappear. So then it was really exciting to see a whole comics festival appear that had those talks, because you're right. Often it is just. I find even with zine fairs, you have a lot of the market day side, which I love.
Yeah.
But it's so fascinating to hear people actually talk to each other about their creative processes who wouldn't normally get programmed on something like Writers' Week.
Exactly. And that was like, even with that, the comics event that you mentioned for Writers Week, one of the issues that like I thought it was great, also very eye-opening, but it was paid. You had to like, there was a fee to go to all of those events. There was one that was part of the Writers Week with Alison Bechdel, who's was the big name. But all of the Australian creators that were also then invited were only in the paid, like it was only $10 or something. But that's $10 for someone that might not.
It can be a barrier, yeah.
Exactly. So that's always been a big thing, is that we've wanted to make sure that the festival is free to attend, free to have a table if you're an artist, because also that's a big thing. Is like often at the big conventions, they're like $200 to $300 or more to have a table, which, as we know, you're probably not going to make that back. Like, you're not doing. So it's nice to be able to just like already be excited to just be there, and know that the first sale you have is your first sale. You don't have to earn back the table fee. But yeah, and then
every
just
2 years. When is it on next?
It is on next year, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Excellent.
But we are the other element of that is we pay all our artists, and we pay like anyone that's visiting gets accommodation and flights covered. Again, because that's the other thing of like, one of the things we struggled with when we can't necessarily always go interstate to an event, even a zine fair, because flights cost a lot of money.
Yes.
So unless there's like other things, and again,
and particularly in Australia, like Australia is not that well connected, huge distances, very expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Which is very similar in Canada. I have found out, obviously being also very big, and it's also quite expensive to travel between the different cities. So it was interesting to see those similarities and how they rely on grant funding also. So give us all your limbs crossed for all the grant applications we're about.
It sounds
sending
really
money
great,
vibes.
especially as someone who's not read a lot of the indie comics. Like growing up, I really only knew about Marvel and DC and that sort of stuff. And I wouldn't even really know, I've read the Scott Pilgrim comics. I have I have my Adventure Zone here.
Very
but
good.
like apart from that, I wouldn't even know where to start. So this sounds like such a great event to be able to just go and like look at all of these comics, these physical comics, and be like, great, that looks interesting to me. That looks interesting. It sounds great.
One of my favorite things.
Put that on my calendar.
One of my favorite things about things like paper cuts and zine fairs is actually getting to talk to all the stallholders about their art. Like it's so much fun, and everyone's always so excited to talk about the thing they've made. And I do think it is interesting because, as someone who, I really like zines. I also travel interstate and do zine fairs interstate, but I've never really made zines with the intention to even break even, because I just enjoy the community of it and the sharing.
Totally.
But when you're a comics artist and independently publishing your own comic, that's not necessarily a luxury you have. So yeah, it is it is something that I've thought about, is that there's like another like level when because I love how anti-capitalist zines are, but at the same time it's like, yes, but people do deserve to be compensated for their art and their work, and it should be something that they can sustainably practice rather than have to be losing money out on.
Yeah, it's such a hard balance, isn't it? With that, like, capitalism is the worst. However, we should make sure artists are supported. And
however, people need to eat. So
and also, why should artists be the one thing that don't get paid? Everyone else is getting paid.
Exactly. And yeah, what I really love about paper cuts on the like meet me out and meet the stallholders is that because I've been doing a lot of workshops with young people in schools and libraries and other spaces for about 10 years or so now, I have now seen some of the students that I've worked with have tables themselves at paper cuts, which has been great. And in particular, last year we had one of my students, they had a table, like they had a table the 2 years previous, so when they were like 12 no, it must have been 12, because then when they were 14 they had another table, but they also ran a workshop themselves at paper cuts. And I was like, I was so excited for them.
That is lovely. Oh my gosh.
Can I ask it, like, this is a more personal question away from the fairs and stuff, but around, like, you are so, like, you multitask, right, which artists have to do to make money, right? How do you manage your energy levels if you're giving workshops, or like, as someone who teaches, I know that teaching depletes me. Like, I'm also performative when I'm performing, but then it steals from other pots. So if you're like writing your comic and you've got like all this puzzle work to do, and then you're having to earn money by running workshops and doing all those things, how do you balance that? Like, how do you find a way?
I don't. Yeah.
We keep getting that answer.
Yeah.
I mean, like obviously I do because I still exist and I am
Yep.
here as a human being. But it is hard. It is really hard, and it's taken a lot of years of like trial and error and figuring out what works for me and what doesn't, and then being frustrated that that also changes. Like you can't like get it and then like, great, I figured out the problem. Like, oh no, everything has changed because now I'm older and my body is falling apart. But yeah, so I think the way I do it is like I can't switch tasks very easily, and it's something that I know. So I've tried really hard to be like, Mondays is my admin day, and like I don't book workshops that day. It's just like setting up the week, figuring out what I need to do, like just trying to get ahead of some of those things. And then I only book workshops on certain days, like knowing even if like I might not always have a workshop on Wednesday or Thursday, but they're my workshop days, for example.
Yeah.
Has really helped of having that for me. That works for my sort of brain.
Yeah.
And then knowing that if I want to work on the comic, I can't do workshops. But so I need to book out a month or so to like get into it because it takes me a while to get into it. I work better in the morning. So if I've been putting the task off, I have to do it first when I I've showered, I'm ready to go. And like, that's the first thing I have to do. Because if I sit down and write an email, I'm just writing emails for the rest of the day because I can't get out of that task.
Yes. Yeah, I understand that one.
Yeah. So those kind of things I've learned. And then grant funding is the one that has helped to be able to like, because workshops, I love running workshops, but like you said, they're just like complete energy drains because you're particularly because I work with a lot of young people who have a lot of energy and like behavior managing and figuring out those kind of things as well. So yeah, I love it, but it really does take it. And I know that if I have that on a day now, I can't really do anything else. And like I just have to sit on the couch and do my little crochet or watch my Star Trek to like relax and calm down. So I've got sort of the methods, but I don't always listen to my body. And
we were talking about that off pod, Millie and I, right before, about that lesson that you have to keep being retaught about listening to your body and about
I always say, yes,
stopping.
You have to rest or your body will make you.
Yes. And I think I'm getting better at not getting to the point where my body just gives up.
I'm not. I need to learn.
I'm getting better.
To learn.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is kind of a dry follow-up question, but you talked a lot about grants and the kinds of grants that have helped you with developing your comic, for example.
Yeah.
What has that process kind of been like? I find writing grant applications so that's a bigger energy drain to me than almost anything else because there's no promise of a reward at the end. Like you could put in all of this work and then still end up
not get it.
But it's so often one of the only ways to make like a creative arts practice sustainable.
Yeah. I definitely have a mixed feelings about grants in the sense of like they are a great way. I encourage people to apply for grants if they can, because if you don't apply, you definitely can't win it. And same with like applying for anthologies or any like opportunities like that, like to be a magazine, like literary magazines or things like that, because that's how I got a lot of my early publication, was just like sending in a comic. Maybe it's going to be terrible, who knows? But then often they will get accepted, or and that sort of helped develop my skills for those kind of things. But it is very, as you said, it's very tiring, and you might not be accepted. So and you might not get it. So like for the Canada trip that I just did, I applied for 4 grants and I got 1, for example. So but I was able to reuse a lot of the grant writing elements for each of once you've written 1 grant, you can kind of reuse it and format it for the other however they need you to format it. I often would get feedback when I first started, particularly I'd get feedback from people that had written grants before or had been on grant writing panels. Like you say, hey, can I buy you a coffee? And ask for your time. I'll buy you cakes and coffee as much as I can. And can you just give me some feedback on what to expect or what they like to see?
Because they are another puzzle, right? Like I've always found them very draining and exhausting, and the language is very specific. And it's like you have to kind of approach it as a whole other job, really.
Yeah. Totally.
I had a friend who submitted essentially the same grant application but tweaked to do 2 different grants, and one of them it was a rejection, and the feedback was very like, I think this one was like the big boy Australia Arts Council funding, and the feedback was that it was in sort of the lower percentage of grant applications they'd received, and the other one they got, and the feedback was like, this is the best grant application we've seen.
Totally.
And I was like, it can be so different based
Oh.
on which funding body it is.
Yeah, and I'd recommend checking, like most funding bodies will have like contact us before you apply for the grant. Like, like let us know, they'll tell you what they want to hear generally. Because they like most of the people that work in those sections are kind of nice and they want you to have the money, but they're just having to work within the system, which kind of sucks.
And they do have some flexibility. I had a friend who got nominated for an award in the US, and there was no grant round at the time, and she reached out and she was like, oh my God, I can't afford to go, my book's in, and they did find some money. They were like, put in this application, we have an emergency fund. And it's like, so it is worth contacting them, and just because they are humans at the other end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, surely you wouldn't work in that system if you didn't want to give money to people doing arts. You would think.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so.
But it is a job. Like applying for grants is another job.
Oh.
Just because I feel like, I mean, we're sort of giving advice now. I also think people shouldn't overlook local council grants because
totally.
My brother's a filmmaker and he's gotten local council grant funding to go to like interstate and film festivals and things.
Yeah, there's lots of different, like there's not just the arts grant bodies. There's also other kind of bodies that you can reach out, like smaller bodies that have specific things. So like being able to like sign up to all the different newsletters to see like which grants are coming out, things like that. So yeah, for paper cuts, we get local government, we get state government and federal government funding. That's the only way we can run the festival now because of all the things that we need to be able to pay for, and keep it free as well. So yeah, so it's, as you said, like local council is a really good way to investigate because they want to support the local arts and creators in their suburbs. Yeah.
Cool. I think we're just about out of time, but
that's crazy, really.
I know. We are. I wanted to ask you, although we started a little bit late, so we could probably go a little bit longer if you've got the energy.
Sure.
I wanted to ask about, what you're working on next. When you said that it's fiction and autobio, like, have you written much fiction? And like, how are you approaching fiction?
Yeah, so I haven't done as much fiction as autobio because every time I'm like, I have all these fiction ideas, and then when I start writing, I'm like, oh no, I've written another autobio. Ah!
I don't think you can kind of get away from yourself ever as a writer.
But the next one I want to make is a Tamagotchi murder mystery, which I'm very excited about.
Oh my God,
that's so cool!
I got full body shivers.
So it would hopefully be a series. The idea is that there's two characters, Tina and Tori, and I think the working title is like Tina and Tori and the Mystery of the Mini Mega Murders. Mini Mega is like my in-world Tamagotchi name. So they're all like Australian megafauna, which is why they're called Mini Megas.
I already love this.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so one of the things this is one of the reasons why I don't think it would necessarily get picked up is like I really want to go ham on the Australianisms. I really want it to feel like round the twist kind of era. Like everyone's like calling everyone a flaming galah and all that kind of nonsense. Like not to the super extent, but I just want it to I don't want to have to change a lot of those things that I find very charming about Australian books. Like one of my favorite books, which I never read as a kid but loved as an adult, was 45 and 47 Stella Street by Elizabeth Honey.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
writing this down.
So good. It's a mystery. There's it's great. It's like mostly prose with some illustration, and it's written from the point of view of Henny, who's one of the like, main characters of the story. And these new neighbors move into the suburb, into their street, and they're like trying to figure out what's going on with them and what scheme they're up to. And yeah, it's so good. But it's just like how Elizabeth Honey writes is one of my favorite sort of Australian. Like it feels very much like how I felt growing up. In sort of the suburbs of Australia. I'm like, cool, this is great, and that's what I want to kind of get across.
I think we need them. We need them so desperately because globalization just does take everything. Like you lose local TV to Netflix, and I kind of feel like we need to fight back. So that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so I'd like to do that. So it's set in summer holidays, and it's at a local swimming pool, and then someone's Tamagotchi gets murdered, which is it dies. And they have to figure out who did it. And then, of course, one of the, Tori, who's kind of like a unlikable, they're frenemies to start off with in this book, and then they become friends by the end of it. It's unlikely friends. I love unlikely friends. I love teen solving crimes. It's great. Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
It's got all the buzzwords.
Thanks.
Also,
I'm so excited. You have to do it now.
Yeah. I feel like the rest of the world can love Australia too. We love other countries. They can love us.
Yeah. And I definitely like there's certain Australian films tonally that I really loved, like Rage and Placid Lake growing up was a really good one for me. So that's sort of more dry, kind of, it's like it's not quite British humor, but it's not quite, there's like this other element of Australian humor that I really would love to be able to capture and pass
Yeah,
on.
I always use like Strictly Ballroom
Yeah,
as my example.
totally.
Like the humor of that film is so hard to describe to people who don't know
Totally.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is kind of awkward and cringy, but not to the point where I'm actually cringing. Like I'm just like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Or quite secondhand embarrassment, but you are like, oh, like, yeah, my uncle talks like that, you know, like,
yeah.
I also feel like there's that mix of like, that mix of kind of cringiness, but like with sincerity. Like,
yes,
these are very almost caricaturish people, but they're so
Yeah.
sincere that you love them.
Makes me think of Flight of the Conchords too with New Zealand. That travels, right? Like people watch, and if you're thinking about Britain, like I think about the Mighty Boosh too. Like what an odd, quirky, very British thing that actually transcends its nationality.
Howard Moon is one of my heroes. I have many Howard Moon memes on my like.
Yeah, I feel like I'm closest to him as well.
Yeah.
Do you still play music? That was the other question I was going to ask.
Yeah, I don't. I like a couple of years ago I tried to get back into it, but I think the thing I miss uni kind of took my love of music away from me, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's sad.
Which is sad, but at the same time it made me really glad that I hadn't studied art at uni, because if I didn't have art, I would be even sadder. But I think like I still try every so often, like I still hit things all over the place. And I was always like a junk percussionist anyway. Like I would use a Milo tin over a drum any day because it just has a better sound.
The joy of percussion, isn't it? Too like you don't have to go and pick up a clarinet. You can just kind of be with your chopsticks on the table a little bit.
Don't even need chopsticks. Got your little hands, got your feet. That's true. Use your head. I don't know.
Speaking of Australian comedy, there is an Auntie Donna skit where everything's a drum, which I know.
Yeah, exactly. So I would like to, but I like playing with other people. So I think that's the biggest thing of like there's only so much drumming alone you can do until you're like, oh, it would be great if we had someone else throwing in another rhythm.
We had a melody somewhere.
Yeah, that would be nice. So yeah, one day. But my marimba is I'm very lucky to have a marimba. But it's like 2 meters long, and I could have many bookcases and many books for that space. So that is currently the issue of like trying to figure out how we can. My parents are currently holding it hostage. No, they're caring for it for me until I can
kenneling it.
Yeah, exactly.
Kenneling it.
So hopefully one day it would be, and I've always wanted to do a zine actually that had like I'd made the soundtrack for the zine. So like I made all the like recorded myself playing music so you could listen to it while you were reading the story. Or you had like an audio reading of it, because that's the other thing with trying to make comics more accessible is like figuring out different ways that you can connect people with low vision or to be able to read the comic. Yeah.
That's so cool. Every time you mention an idea you have to make something, I'm always just so excited. I'm like, okay, where is it? Where do I get to
make it happen? Me too.
That's the problem, isn't it? You do have to make the thing.
You have some workshops coming up. By the time this episode comes out, a couple of them may have happened. But there was one when you were talking earlier, Millie, about the form.
Yes.
You've got one coming up about the form, right? On the 17th of July, you had one about making
tunnel book one?
The tunnel book one. I got excited when I saw that.
And in fact, there will be that's on the 17th of July is at the State Library as part of they've got a whole exhibition of tunnel books happening at the moment that you can go and check out.
Cool.
And so there's a whole amazing set of workshops that myself and also Ruby Chew, who has Studio Ruby Chew, is also fantastic. If you're looking for cool art things for young people, check out Ruby's whole studio. But we're both running different workshops as part of that. And so I'm doing tunnel books, which if you've never heard of a tunnel book before, you might have seen them. They're basically like often at least 3 layers, but can be longer, of like a scene. And they're quite hard to describe, but when you see them, you're like, yes, of course. So you have like your front area, which is the main characters, and then you might have a secondary character and then a background, and then Constantine is open and shut to give it a 3D sort of look to it. So I definitely recommend Googling tunnel books to try and have a look at a few more of those things. But like I've seen ones that are like 20
Wow.
concertinas long, and you can do all these amazing things and see them. And so that's what I'm making with young. It's a kids workshop on the 17th, but I believe I will be coming back to the State Library later in the year. I can't remember exactly when. I'd have to check my diary. It'll be September or October, probably October, I guess, but for an adults workshop version of it as well.
Amazing.
So sign up to my newsletter.
Yeah, if anyone's interested, your website is George Rex Comics, but it's where you can find Georgina Chadderton as well. And there's a page where you can look up all Gina's events, and there's a lot of them coming up. And you're going to be in Perth as well later this month.
Yeah, so in a couple of weeks, I'm off to Perth for the Perth Comic Art Festival, which is very exciting. I'm a guest there this year, so doing some deep dive workshops and be at the market day and workshops with the local artist Ashka, who's also had their first single graphic novel that they've just worked on themselves. They've done a million other things with other people, but this is their first solo one. And so we're doing a workshop together, and then I come back for a day, and then off to Melbourne for an overnight for Rare Book Week to do a couple of events, and then to Brisbane and Cairns for more events.
So if you are in Perth, Melbourne, Brisbane, Cairns, check out Gina's website,
please,
and pop along. If you have young people, I cannot recommend these workshops highly enough. Like, you just fanned the flames of love for making and art and all kinds of things with my kids, and they still make stuff today because of you. So thank you. And everyone, pop out and get Oh Brother, which came out February this year, and it is available in Canada, US, UK, Australia, and it's taking the world by storm. And then also, if you're interested in any of those festivals, Paper Cuts running next year, stay on our socials, follow Gina. What's your Instagram handle again?
It's George Rex Comics.
George Rex Comics.
Yeah.
If you want to look up at George Rex Comics and follow along, and you can come along to all these cool things.
Yeah, I feel so hyped about comics.
Yeah.
Well, I should have said I have a reading list on my website.
So
even better.
We can mention that in the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's under the blog link in my website page. So if you're looking for a reading list, and it's all via age and whether it's fiction or non-fiction. Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, Gina. It's always lovely to see you.
Thanks, you too. It was great. Thank you for letting me just have a good yap about zines and life.
Great. Always love to listen.
I just listen to everything they do, and I'm like, wow. I mean, wow. I know I'm busy, but I get tired listening to Gina. I'm like, do you know, I think it's the added levels of doing the artwork as well as the words, oddly.
Yeah. But also just, running so many things, but then all the things that come underneath running so many different things.
Yes, the admin and the grants and also Gina's just like the most open, generous person. Like, if they're in front of you or they're running a workshop, they're like 110%. Yeah. Like, you don't get like 75% Gina ever.
Yeah, I'm so amazed at how much like community organizing they do, and then to have a personal creative practice on top of that. I'm like,
as well. Yeah,
I know.
It's obviously very important to them.
Yeah.
How much, those of you watching, how much do you love their room? I just want to lie on that couch.
I was staring at the art line behind at the back.
And to realize that pile next to them was a to read list. There's a to read pile. That's so funny.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, thank you for joining us, everyone. You can tell by our slightly stunned silence that we really enjoyed that.
So many things to think about.
I really want to go read some comics now.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, my ex-husband is a mad comic collector. And so when I met him when I was 19, got into comics in the 90s when everything was indie, and, even like the big companies like Marvel had more indie imprints. And so, I used to get all the one-shots. I haven't really done it since we broke up. It was like very connected to him. But I do love the comic book as a form. I think it's an incredible art form.
I was not a big superhero guy growing up. I say this, but I mean, I enjoyed like the cartoons on like Cheese TV. But I was never interested in reading superhero comics. It was indie comics that made me see how cool comics could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a lot
money was just the barrier for me.
Oh my God, yes.
Cost so much money, which is why like comic books, not like comic series, but like actual
Like
books,
graphic
really
novels.
appeal to me because you're really getting bang for your buck there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And I
in
can
the,
read the whole story
I feel like in the
instead of
90s
having to
too.
only pick up some issues.
Yeah, you saw the arrival of those graphic novels in the 90s a little bit too, and also this kind of diversity of authorship. Suddenly there were a lot of queer stories and non-white backgrounds and stuff, which was really cool to see. So yeah. Anyway, we should definitely do a comic month, I think. I think that's on my radar
Absolutely.
now. Thanks for joining us. Now, we've had a really busy month. Next week, we're going to be making our own zines. We've been making our own zines all month, so we get to unveil them next week, guys.
Our zine
I'm
club, book
excited.
club.
Yeah, Zine Club Book Club. So if you're still making your zines, get on it. You can be like, you could do the 8-fold thing, or you can just do one page if you have to.
Yeah.
Anything counts.
You
Anything
can
can be
fold
a
a single
zine.
piece
We
of
said
paper in
this.
half.
So we'll see you guys next week where we'll be revealing what we made this month and having fun times for Zine Month. But thanks for joining me, Millie. Thanks for joining me, Justina. Bye.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye.
Bye.